All right, welcome to another Sights and Sounds. Sam Walker at obxnews.com. And joining a couple of pretty cool people, I gotta admit. And first off, tell everybody who you are, first off, and where you're from.
I'm at Acheson. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
And Michèle DeVoe, also from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. And they just stopped here in the Outer Banks this weekend. You know, they're just on this little trip of roughly 14,400 miles. Is that the right math?
It's somewhere in that range.
In that range.
We'll know when we're done.
They are riding bicycles, as you see in the thumbnail, around the perimeter of the 48 states. So, first off, tell me, why?
That's your.
Oh, okay. Why?
10 years ago, we did a ride across the country from San Francisco to Boston. And very early in the ride, we realized this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end too soon, and we want to do it again. So when you're pedaling, you have a lot of time to think on the bikes. And we thought about what we'd want to do. I love being against the ocean. I love the coast, and Ohio has a flaw. It doesn't have an ocean.
No, it has a lake.
It has a lake, and it has a river.
Yeah.
We have the Ohio River, but so we decided we wanted to do both oceans, and we would connect them. So we came up with the idea of a perimeter ride fairly early in that journey,
Mm-hmm.
but we were still working. So we knew we had to wait until we retired before we'd actually be able to do it, because we figured it'd probably be the better part of the year to do the ride.
At least a year.
And that's probably right, at least a year.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So how'd you get sucked in on it?
Oh, there was no sucking in at all. We were both on the same page.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. You know, long trips outside.
Mm-hmm.
What could be better?
Yeah.
Ed likes great adventures. He likes to do epic things.
Uh-huh.
And he's really good at planning epic things.
Okay,
So I very happily follow him.
I got you. All right.
But it's a joint effort
It's a joint
for
effort.
sure.
Okay, so where'd you start?
We actually started in San Diego.
Okay.
We rented a van, put our bikes in it. We thought about flying. We thought about taking the train, but in both cases it was either very expensive or we would lose track of our gear. Like if we had to change trains 4 times, we couldn't afford to let anything happen to the bikes. So we rented a van and took that to San Diego. And then so day one of our trip started when we got rid of the rental car.
Okay.
And we had only bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had only bikes. We don't have any SAG. We don't have anybody that's riding along with us. We're carrying all our gear.
Okay. When did you start?
We started March 21st.
Wow. Okay, so what direction?
Clockwise around the United States. So, and there's a reason for that.
Okay.
Along the west coast, sadly, the winds tend to come out of the north, so we had a headwind most of the time. But across the northern perimeter of the United States, the winds come out of the west, so we had a tailwind.
Okay.
And the northern perimeter is longer, so we decided that that would set the direction.
The route itself, how did you, and you being the planner, I'm going with you on this.
Okay.
The route itself, I mean, for the most part, we know coastal roads. I mean, you've got pretty good options.
Yes.
You know, here on the East Coast, I'll kind of shrink it down. US 13 down the Eastern Shore, obviously here with Route 12, 17, and things like that. But across the northern tier of the United States, it's a little more difficult, isn't it?
It was a little more difficult, but not that challenging, because our goal, we kind of defined as we did the planning, where do we want to be, and the goal was to be as close to the perimeter as we could. And so coming up the west coast, there's a group called Adventure Cycling, and they publish like 50,000 miles of bicycle routes. So up the west coast, we just followed their route a lot of the way up until we got to Washington. We hugged the coast more. And then once we got out of the Cascades, it was really just picking the routes that made the sense. So when we got to the middle of Montana, we rode 100 miles north to pick up Montana 5 and then North Dakota 5, so we'd be right along the border. And then the rest of it just kind of feeds in. You dip down through Michigan, and then you follow the Great Lakes up and the St. Lawrence River way over. So it was with the goal in mind, it became kind of easy to pick some routes. And one of the goals is also to stay off of highly traveled roads and be on back roads and stuff.
That obviously can be a challenge in the Northeast, for sure. I'm sure there's some adventures there, and I'll get to that in a second. The Outer Banks itself, obviously, is as perimeter as you're going to get.
Yes.
Especially once you get across the Bass Knight Bridge and on Hatteras Island the next couple of days. I mean, you literally are on, as I like to say, you're on the edge of the continental shelf right there.
Yes.
So the Outer Banks was obviously, there's a little bit of a tie here. Ohio. My wife's from Ohio.
Oh, cool.
So, but of course, the Wright brothers. So you're getting a little bit of home while you're here.
Yes, and that's pretty important to us because, you know, in Dayton there's a national park, the Wright Brothers National Park or Historical Park. One of our friends is a ranger there.
Oh, wow.
And so we've spent time with him at Oshkosh, where they do the air show and stuff, and heavily involved with the Wright Brothers stuff there. So that really is a connection. We're going to go over and visit the Wright Memorial again, whatever it is here.
Yeah, you got it. That's it.
And we brought our national park passport stamps.
Okay.
So yeah, there is that connection.
Right. Oh, so you've got the passport. You've had a chance to get quite a few cool places on that passport, haven't you?
We have, and sometimes we'll be right on the West Coast. We'd ride along, and there'd be a sign that says National Park, and we didn't even know it was coming up. So, you know, our planning on that is more happenstance than that. But we visit some pretty cool national parks.
Right.
And we've ridden out of our way to see some of them too.
All right.
Yeah.
Is this your first time on the Outer Banks?
No, I vacationed here before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've been here before too.
Okay. All right. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What you do, what you did.
Okay.
And then kind of we'll tie into how you guys got together with this.
Sure. So I was a patent attorney.
Okay.
35 years in Cincinnati. Spent most of my life at a desk. Sitting down. It's not much different than today because every day we ride, we're just sitting down.
Right.
On a much smaller seat.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And as Michèle said, I like epic adventures. In 1981, out of law school, I spent 4 months backpacking on the Pacific Crest Trail out in California. And so for me, going out for a week or two just is not the way I think. I want to go out for a long time. And so trips like this are just right up my alley. I like doing long trips like this. And Michèle?
So I was am a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Retired, but I had 40 plus years of experience in consulting, and decided I was going to retire at 70. I retired at 65.
Okay.
So I'm 66 now, and it's just the idea of I love being outside. I love adventure. Pretty risk tolerant, and the physical activity is it's just very freeing. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah. Right.
So
And we met through Boy Scouts. We were both adult leaders in different troops in Cincinnati, but because of common activities we did, we eventually connected together and found we had similar interests. We liked
like pranking people.
Yeah, doing pranks. That was the
that was
first
how we
connection.
connected.
Yeah.
Pranking people.
All right.
And so it was just kind of natural. Michèle had done bicycling, and I had not had my bicycling out of it was in storage for 20 years plus. And we started riding together, and that was a lot of fun.
All right, so what's your favorite prank? Because I mean, the left-handed smoke cutter. You know, you always sent the youngest scouts the left-handed smoke cutter. You know, what was some of the other ones? I'm trying to remember when I was a Boy Scout.
Snipe hunting.
Snipe hunting, of course.
Yep. I don't know about your favorite prank, but my favorite is we would do adult training. We would be on the staff, and in Cincinnati at the camp there was what they called a program building, had 2 wings for sleeping, and about a 4-foot wide hall. It was about maybe 40 feet long. And one of Michèle's friends, and the staff would stay in there, and one of Michèle's friends was able to get us a 4-foot wide roll of bubble wrap.
Oh, Lord.
So we taped it down in the hallway after everyone went to bed.
We carpeted
The hallway, yeah.
And no one could go out at night to use the bathroom without stepping
On the bubble wrap, yeah.
Some people were not happy.
I'm sure.
It
I'm
took
sure.
them
We
years.
were.
It took them years to decide
Yeah.
it was funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, they'll probably do it to their kids
And
and
that,
grandkids.
that particular person got out to go to the bathroom. And kicked it to the side. And we, of course, were awake. Went back and taped it back into place so that when that person went back to their room, they had to deal with it again.
That was my favorite part.
All right, let's talk about the tech side of this. Let's talk about the gear that you're using. And we've got the photo up on the screen right now of them outside the marquee here at the Outer Banks Motor Lodge. Tell us a little bit about the gear that you're using, the bikes, etc.
Okay, so we shopped for bikes. We did our other trip in 2014. We bought our bikes in 2012. We shopped for bikes that would be good for cross country, and we decided to get the Linsky Back Road, which is a titanium bike. I really, really wanted a titanium bike, and there's a couple of reasons. I know there's all kinds of discussions about how stiff the material is, but one of the big things was it wasn't going to be painted, and so we knew that we'd be on rough roads, and I didn't want to worry about chipping the paint and rust and things like that. But they're really built that they actually don't have a weight limit on it. They're built to carry whatever you need. So we've been really, really happy with those. And we got panniers. We got Arkell panniers, and we got them in a bright yellow color, so we'd be highly visible.
Right.
And the thing that we liked about the Arkell panniers is they have a lot of pockets and dividers, so we can keep our things organized. We pack differently. I always put my things in Ziploc bags because that way I can pull out things like pulling out a drawer. Ed likes to roll his things.
Okay.
So tomato. There's not a better way. It's
Right.
just a personal preference. But we figured out how to pack things. We have a tent, and the panniers have a sleeve for the tent, which works out really nicely. We have sleeping bags. We have air mattresses.
Wow.
We have blow-up pillows. So
You
it's
gotta-
about comfort. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can pack lighter than we pack, but we pack what makes the trip comfortable for us.
Right.
And we're willing to take that weight penalty, if you will.
Okay.
We have a couple sets of clothes, so we, typically in cycling clothes, and we have a backup set. That way, if you need to wash one, you can click it to the racks on the bike and let it dry while you're wearing the other one.
Oh, okay.
We have 2 sets of street clothes. So today is one set, which is long pants, long sleeve shirts. The other one is short pants, short sleeve shirts.
Right.
We do carry some gear for maintenance. Lube for the chains, some tools, spare spoke, just various things like that, and some clothes. Oh, and an office. We have the office, so we have a laptop.
Okay.
And we carry some paper maps. We use a lot of electronic maps. And I'm trying to think what else we have in the office.
That's mostly office stuff. the
Yeah,
maps-
that we
maps
call
on
it the
computer.
office, 'cause we grab that bag, 'cause
Have
we
a
don't-
folding keyboard for connecting to the phone, so we can type with
Okay.
that too, so we can both do
Right.
blogging.
Right.
And then food. And the
Okay.
food stuffs vary. It's usually, we used to carry a stove, but we don't have the energy to cook hot food at the end of the day, so
Right.
we're happy with cheese and crackers if
Okay.
that's what we have with us. It's
Gotcha.
easier.
Right.
And we'll get a hot meal later.
I was going to say that you've been through some of the most remote parts of the country, especially in the upper Midwest and Rocky, trying to cross the Rockies and all that. Here on the East Coast, you're pretty. I would say you've got it pretty lucky. I guess would that be easy to say, or would be the correct way to say it?
We don't have to go very far for services.
Right.
And we stop at a lot of gas stations, or who knew there were this many Dollar Generals?
Yeah.
There's a state law. You have to have a Dollar General in North Carolina every 15 miles. That's required.
That has been our observation. Yes.
Yeah.
So, on the journey itself, let's talk about some of the big challenges that you faced. What's some of the biggest challenges faced on the journey, and we'll kind of hyper-local that in a little bit. But first, what's some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face? Hey, I'm sure that is one of them.
Yeah. so traffic is always on our mind. For the most part, the cars give us room, but it doesn't take many people to come too close to make it unsafe.
Right.
And then we have the coal dusters. Right? They jump on their exhaust.
Yeah.
And but that has not happened very often. I would guess out of the whole summer, whole trip, 10 times we've had not coal dusting, but just too close. And that's pretty good, because coming up the West Coast, I bet we probably saw 4,000 or 5,000 cars a day go by up the West Coast. And then, so that's, you kind of become numb to it. A lot of the challenges have been kind of the length of each day and how far we can go relative to where we can stay and stuff. Weather on the West Coast was a challenge, because coming up the West Coast, we lost 14 days to rain.
Oh, wow.
And we do not ride in the rain. If we're caught in the rain, we'll stop. We'll ride when it's wet, but it's just not safe, and we have lots of time.
Okay.
I mean, we have rain gear and everything, but the ride is supposed to be fun.
Right.
And riding in the rain isn't fun.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
And we've had 16 flats so far.
Oh, okay.
Now, in comparison, in 2014, we rode across the country. We only had 2 flats.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, so we're roughly at almost twice the distance and 8 times the flats.
I hope that's not a precursor for the rest of the trip.
Well,
So do we.
one of the things with backpacking, which we like to do, is you pack your fears.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now we have 6 tubes.
Okay.
We started with 2,
right,
and then we went to 4, and the time we had 3 flats in one day, we blew. And you can repair them, but we have different philosophies on repairs.
Okay.
For me, a repair is temporary, and if you don't have another good tire that doesn't have a patch, you put the new one on. But Michèle is happy to patch. And
you can patch a tire many times.
So and as a result of those flats, one of the things we realized was we have one tire pump.
Okay.
Well, if that goes bad, we're really in trouble. So now we have a backup tire pump. I am packing our fears. I don't know about Michèle.
Right.
You have more fears than I.
Yes.
Let's talk about getting to here, to Kill Level Hills. And again, I'll keep it somewhat local. Folks know the references. They're locals. The folks that travel here all the time and watch our stuff know these. All right. How much of a challenge was it coming across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel?
Oh, well, that was actually quite easy, because Virginia Department of Transportation provides a shuttle.
Okay.
So you just have to call a day or so ahead of time. We actually I called 2 weeks ahead of time just to confirm. And you show up, you schedule a time. We showed up, waited about 15 minutes. A van came, and we put our bikes in there, and they drove us across.
Oh, wow.
So we actually, if you go back 2 months, we didn't know about the shuttle then.
Okay.
And we were still doing routing and stuff, and in the adventure cycling information, they had that information there. So, you kind of work your way through that.
Right.
So that was actually easy.
Okay.
But you've done a lot of research anytime we have to go across a bridge.
Yeah.
It's a lot of research to see if we can go
Right.
across a bridge.
Right.
And how we would do that.
Yeah, and we have such a popular destination for distance cyclists, as you've found.
You wouldn't want to come here.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Although maybe in peak, not in peak season, but in warm season.
In warmer, yeah. Well,
and yesterday was really warm.
Yes, it was,
Uncharacteristically
And
warm.
our goal now is we've turned south. We're trying to stay ahead of the cold weather to get into Florida and then across the southern part.
Okay. So people see people bringing bikes like yours across the Coin Drop. We know it as the Coin Drop Bridge, the Intercoastal Waterway. I know you cut through Great Bridge, so you went across the drawbridge there. The bridges obviously are the biggest challenge here. because you've got the navigation span you've got to go over. So overall, I mean, you've been across two. You've been across the Coinjop Bridge over the Intercoastal Waterway. You've been across the Wright Memorial Bridge across the Currituck Sound. I guess you kind of caught those on good days, although it was a little bit of a headwind coming yesterday. So.
Well, I thought it would be, but I think we actually had a tailwind.
You had a tailwind on the Wright Memorial Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, it was coming out of the southwest. So
that was nice.
Yeah. And then you're pretty much on a 2-lane road for the next 100 miles.
Yeah.
I know that's probably a little easier than having to deal with the 5-lane of 158 across the bridge.
Right. So bridges one of the challenges of bridges is making sure we have a safe place to ride, because cars get impatient and they want to ride quickly. If they have 2 lanes, they always have a lane they can move into. So that is a comfort for us, because then we're not holding up traffic. And we're already pedaling as fast as we can.
Right.
There's no more in there.
Right.
On this stuff, on these roads, we either look for enough of a shoulder to ride safely and or less traffic. And if we can get one or both of those, then we feel pretty comfortable.
Right. How many ferries have you had a chance to use yet?
I haven't counted. I loved the free ferry.
Okay.
Yeah, we did the.
Because I'm trying to think
of got us here.
Okay, all right. I was trying to think where the ferries north of us and west of us would be.
The ferry into Currituck?
No. Oh, so y'all did take so y'all went Knott's Island, Currituck.
Yeah, we did Knott's Island.
So you went through Virginia Beach rather than going through Chesapeake. Okay,
Yeah.
I had said Great Bridge earlier, and now that makes so much sense. So you took Currituck to Knott's Island.
So,
Knott's Island,
and the
Currituck.
interesting challenge on the East Coast is when we were up in New York, we took a ferry from New York over to New Jersey, Atlantic Highlands.
Okay.
And that helped us avoid all of that, the traffic and everything in New Jersey side. But if we wanted to go down through Washington, D.C., so Michèle's son lives in Washington, D.C. in Alexandria area, the only place you can cross any water coming down there is in Philadelphia on a bicycle.
Right.
You cannot ride across any other bridges, and that took a while to work through. So it was either go way inland, go through Richmond and all that, or Baltimore, or stay on the coast and do the ferry jumping. So we've had probably about 7 or 8 ferries or so.
Okay.
So ferries feels a little bit like cheating because we're not pedaling.
Right.
But it is within the rules we've established for our ride.
I get to make up our own rules.
Because we can't exactly swim across.
Right. I was going to say, you're going to end up riding, you've already done Currituck, Knott's Island. Didn't think about it. You've knocked that out. You're going to knock out Hatteras, Ocracoke. You'll knock it out, I assume, Ocracoke to Cedar Island.
Yes.
Because you're going to go to the Morehead City. And then Fort Fisher, Southport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to ride most of our, and and we've got the second biggest ferry system in the country.
Oh, it's fantastic. And the website is amazing. It's so informative. It
Tim?
is really yeah.
All our pals at the North Carolina Department of Transportation love to hear that.
Yeah, no, that was been, a lot of the ferries are really hard to find information, but North Carolina, you can go to one site, you can find all the ferries. It's fantastic.
All right, so besides, as you said, you're going to go see the Wright Memorial today. What else here on the Outer Banks is your goals as you're making your way down?
Well, it's really just the ride and the enjoyment, and it's not so much the ride. Our trip is a great adventure, but it's the people we're meeting that's the adventure. That's the fun part.
Okay.
That's what this trip apart. People ask us, "What have you seen? What's your, what area did you like the most?
What's your favorite place?"
Yeah, favorite place, and that's not the answer because it's the people is the favorite.
Okay.
We see every part of this country has things to offer to see and ride through, but the people are amazing.
Well, tell us, obviously, Linda here at the Outer Banks Motor Lodge, we talked before we started the taping here, you gave her a big shout out. And so, anybody particular you want to mention that you've met so far?
Oh, wow. It's the amazing people of the U.S., and probably the world, but we encounter the U.S., and everyone's been generous, helpful. They go out of your way to help, to be kind. Now, of course, we're a little bit of a oddity. We stand out.
Well,
but
you don't
been
stand
so
out as
enjoyable.
much here as you would think, though, because so many people do this. I mean, there's as much as I spend time on the roads here, there's constantly somebody coming through.
What's interesting? This is kind of a cool part. I mentioned the adventure cycling, but they have an Atlantic coast route. This is part of their map route here.
Right.
And what's kind of cool, we're here visiting my sister and her husband. Their house on Virginia Dare is right on the route.
Okay. Yeah.
We literally rode right past their house here.
Right.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think talking about the unexpected generosity of people, one of the things we pray for every day is a safe place to stay. And so we are in motels about half of the time. We tend to camp about a quarter of the time. We're in people's houses about a quarter of the time. And many times, that's somebody that we met 1,700 miles ago on their vacation in some place. And so they asked us questions because they're curious about what we're doing. And we stayed with a couple in Virginia Beach, Marianne and Don, who we had met 1,700 miles before.
Oh, wow.
At the Coffee Cove, and they said, if you're coming through Virginia Beach, here's our name and number, give us a call, we'll put you up. And and we stay with people, and my family is like, you're staying with people you've never met before? How do you know you're in a safe place? And you just get a sense from people. And we've never felt unsafe in those situations. We've stayed with, I don't know how many, more than a dozen people along the way in the last 7 months that have said, I live ahead of where you're going.
Right.
When you
please come
through,
stay with us.
Let us know. Yeah.
All right. So the Outer Banks. How many miles have you done so far? You've calculated it out. So
about a little over 7,600.
So you're about halfway. You're getting
we're probably past the halfway
point now.
We like to think we're past the halfway point.
That's positive thinking.
We won't know till the end. Yes, we like to think we're halfway.
Okay, so on the pace you're on, when do you think you're going to be complete? Do you have an idea?
End of March-ish?
End of March.
About a year. Okay.
Yeah, probably about a year.
We've taken breaks along the way.
Right.
Of course, we weren't going to miss our annual week at the beach in Pawleys Island.
Okay.
So we had to take that break.
Oh, so you've been down and then back up.
Yeah.
So
we flew back
Okay.
and did that stuff.
Okay. So how's that worked out? Because you find somewhere to store your stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, coming home, I would say, is a little stressful. Not because we're going home, but because we have to find a place from which we can travel and where we can store our gear. And we have to coordinate that ahead of time enough to be able to make plans. So in September, we came home from Bangor, Maine, and there's an organization called Warm Showers. And Warm Showers is an organization where cyclists host other cyclists.
Okay, right.
So we can look ahead and see who's in the area and reach out to people. Sometimes we reach out to see if we can stay with them. That's what we do the most. In this case, we reached out to see if they would store our gear for us while we were out of town. And sometimes we reach out just to get some information about the local roads and the best way to travel in or out of that area. So for Bangor, we contacted and stayed with a young couple who put us up the night before we were to depart. We kept our bikes, all our gear in their basement, and came back, stayed there another night, and then we were on our way. So
yeah, the logistics of going home can be challenging because once you start pinning in those arrangements, now you've got a deadline to meet.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we don't always know. We don't always know how far we'll go.
Yeah.
Will it rain? Will we be slowed down? Will we want to go see the world's biggest ball of twine somewhere?
Right, of course.
So that can be challenging. So for example, we're going to go home at Thanksgiving time. We'll be down in the Miami area, but we don't know how far we're going to get, so we can't make any plans until we start getting farther south.
Right.
So you just adapt.
Yeah. All right. So how can people track you? How can they keep up with you? Because I know, once things like this get out, people want to say, all right, well, we want to know where they're at. What are they doing? So you guys doing the socials? I know you've got the blog, but, tell people how people can keep up with y'all.
You want to do that?
You too.
Okay,
Right.
so we do a blog. It's perimeter24.com. So perimeter24.com. And we do a daily blog. We are always behind.
Okay.
So that means
Yes,
that
let me
people...
clarify. It's a daily blog, but it's not posted.
It's
daily.
not posted daily.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to
There
say
is-
Banger seems to be about where it's.
Yeah,
well, last
so
I
we're
checked.
probably 3 weeks behind
Yeah.
right now, which
Yeah.
is bad. And I thought we would catch up here, but we're having so much fun visiting that we're not
Right.
doing any catching up. And that's part of the challenge
Uh-huh.
of the blog is when we want to experience things along the way.
Well,
So if we have the choice of going out and seeing something or staying in the hotel and writing,
right. Oh,
why
yeah.
would we
Mhm.
want to
Rainy
write?
days are somewhat helpful sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Rainy days let us
And we
catch
haven't
up.
had any this month, so I'm
No,
not going
that's what we
to.
heard.
We are in the middle of a drought now, so yeah.
And at the end of the day, sometimes I actually want to sleep instead of write.
Right.
So there are
That sounds familiar. I will say that.
Yes, and the
Yeah,
other
you'd
thing
know.
is if we're stealth
Yeah.
camping,
Yeah.
if we're stealth camping, which we did 2 nights in the past week, you can't, you set up your tent just before dark, and you don't want a light on in the tent. That's like a big light
Hey,
that
that's
says,
right.
hey guys,
Yeah.
here I am.
Right.
So, unless you totally hide under the sleeping bag,
Yeah.
it's just, you can't breathe.
Right.
That
yeah.
doesn't work, so
Yeah.
we
And,
just go to
and
bed.
that's an interesting challenge for us now too, because the days are like 10 and a half hours long now of light.
Yes.
And so we've gone from where out west we could ride till 9:30 or almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And now, right, tomorrow the time changes
Yeah.
and sun sets at 5.
Right.
And it's going to set earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
So, we get in a tent. If we're in a tent, that's like 13 hours in a tent.
Yeah.
We're finding though that it is not hard to sleep 13 hours.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
We sleep really well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Even
so-
on a sleeping, even on a.
It doesn't matter.
An air mattress and a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
where
Yeah.
we are, we can
Yeah.
sleep.
Right. Here on the Outer Banks, obviously, Linda told me the schedule. You guys are probably planning to depart tomorrow to head south. Is that right? Okay, so
Yeah.
Sunday. So where you try to get? Where are you trying to get to? Say Sunday or Monday.
So tomorrow is, since we're here visiting my sister, we don't want to have to leave really early, and with the time change, so we're only going to go down to.
We have
There's a place called Waves.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So in that area, and there's some campgrounds there.
Yep.
And then, so this is part of the logistic challenge. The next campground on the map is like 17 miles farther.
Mhm.
So it becomes very incremental.
Yeah.
And then, so Monday night we'll be at an inn right at the ferry.
Uh-huh.
So that, because the ferry's only at 7:31 and 5.
And when you get to Ocracoke, yeah,
Ocracoke,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so if we catch the 1 o'clock ferry, it's a 2-hour ride.
Mhm.
We won't be able to ride the rest of the day. So,
Right.
So we're going to catch the 7:30 ferry.
Yeah. I don't like
Yeah.
mornings.
But we got to catch that, and then from there we'll probably get to Newport that day.
Okay. Oh wow. So you're gonna get to
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do 7:30 and get to Newport. That's a pretty good haul from
Yeah.
Cedar Island to
Yeah.
Newport. So
Yeah.
I say
I
with
mean-
Newport, if people aren't familiar, Newport's between Morehead City and Havelock. It's where the National Weather Service office is, by the way. So you'll go there. Then I'm assuming you'll continue south down towards Jacksonville on 58 that way. Yeah.
Yep. And then I know we route ourselves. I tried to route us through Camp Lejeune, and it wouldn't let me. And I had to look and say, oh yeah, there's a camp that.
Yeah.
One time in Michigan, we rode into the Michigan National Guard base.
Uh-oh.
We actually got past the guard shack, and we kind of, well, no one stopped us, so we stopped and said, do we need to do something? And he looked at us and he said, are you military? No. I said, wait right
Oh
here.
no.
Yeah. He used his daddy voice.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
he says,
yeah.
you will go down that road,
Mhm.
not I want you to go down that road,
Yeah, you
or
will.
please go down
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
will.
So there are little hints, but when we'll follow down, we'll hit 17, then
Yeah.
we'll start picking that
Yeah, I
up.
was gonna say because you can't. You used to be able to go through the east side of Camp Lejeune and come out at Sneed's Ferry. Now
Oh,
you
yeah,
can't.
I was trying to do
You
that.
can't.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. So you got to go all the way into Jacksonville and then
Yep,
around and
up and
down.
around.
Yeah. So watch out for the tanks out there on the south side of town. They do like to run through the road there.
We typically target 50 to 60 miles.
Okay.
A day.
All right.
But then we have to temper it with where can we
Where we
stay,
stay, yeah.
and
How
what,
much sun,
what do we need to
when the sun
coordinate
sets.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. All right, well, thank y'all for taking the time
thank
out of your
you.
day. I know, I mean, the last thing y'all want to do is vlog on a day you're getting into the Outer Banks. So I'm going to let y'all go. Thank y'all so much. And
Thank
good
you.
luck. Stay in
This is
touch.
awesome. This is awesome.
Stay in touch. We want to know where you're at and how things are going. So, all right. Thank y'all for joining us for another edition of Sights and Sounds at SamWalkerOBXNews.com.